whether it's a hunter, non-hunter, when you go up and you talk to them, more than likely at their front porch, knocking on their door, you have to be a very likable individual. They have to like you. It's kind of like what we learned in sales. Like, they gotta need to like you within 5 to 10 seconds of talking to you and hearing from you. So that's part of it. So if you're going up and you're kind of uncertain about yourself, you don't have a lot of confidence in like what you're doing, a lot of times people are going to be able to read that, and they're just going to tell you no because you make them feel awkward because you're awkward in front of them.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another Thursday Q&A. We got a lot going on this week. We got some really good Q&As. Appreciate everybody sending those in. We also got the World Deer Expo coming up. I guess it'd be tomorrow through Sunday. Birmingham, Alabama, BJCC. Y'all come see us, booth 605.
605 upstairs. We're going to be right next to Michael Perry, who's been on the podcast a bunch, along with Daniel Lemon and Jeremy Aaron. Do-it-yourself hunter. They're going to be right next to us. And then Weaver Meat Processing will be just down from us as well. So it's going to be an awesome time. Also, pray everybody buying all the new Freezer Queen t-shirts. I got mine back on for today's Thursday episode. Again, these just launched through the newsletter, the website. Everyone's been kind of getting notifications on it. If you want yours, click a link down in the show notes below or the video description. Or just go to thesouthern.outdoorsman.com and go to shop. You'll find this new shirt plus a bunch of new stuff.
Yeah, I got this shirt too. We got our new Stay Southern shirt, which I'm wearing. Let me show the camera. So yeah, I actually love this shirt. It's a different kind of shirt than what you're wearing. It's more comfortable.
I don't know. I like the logo. But anyways, we got a whole bunch of new apparel that's now on the website, guys. So go check out thesouthern.outdoorsman.com. Check out shop. Check out all the new apparel. Appreciate everybody's already purchasing stuff. Yep. Hopefully see some of you guys wearing some Southern Outdoorsman apparel, both at the World Deer Expo, but also we got the Mobile Hunter Expo and the GON Blast. GON Blast is a little bit later on this month, and Mobile Hunter Expo is August 8th through the 10th. In Dalton, Georgia. So, good time.
The other thing I'll say, we've been getting some questions about grunt calls again this year. Ooh, because we had grunt calls last year. They sold out super, super, super fast. Kind of didn't expect that at all. So we ordered a bunch of them this year. And the first round of those, the first drop, is going live at the World Deer Expo. So we're going to have them at the World Deer Expo. Come get them while they
Southern Outdoorsman Signature Series grunt calls. Fantastic. Again, had a lot of guys get some last year, have some success stories with them. Same calls that we use, have a lot of success calling bucks in. Come check me out, World Deer Expo booth 605. Get those, get a hat, get a shirt, come hang out, come say hi to Andrew and myself. It's going to be a good time. But let's get over to some Q&As.
All right, Q&A time, baby. All right, first up we got Nelson Chandler from Georgia.
My name's Nelson Chandler. I live in northwest Georgia, and I got a question. Most of these deer here were taken on permission farms that I've had permission from people for years. However, lately I've lost a lot of those permission farms, and I was wondering if you guys had any information on how to get non-hunting people to allow you to hunt on their property. It's becoming a big problem finding a place to hunt. Thank you very much.
All right, Nelson, appreciate that. He's wearing a GON Outdoor Blast shirt, so hope we see you at the Blast. Nelson, did we meet you at the Blast last year? Because he looks kind of familiar. I know he sent in a listener success story because I've seen it. I remember posting your...
Unfortunately, he can't answer us right now while we're recording the podcast.
Yeah.
But maybe he'll send us a message.
Yeah. All right, gaining permission.
From a non-hunter.
From a non-hunter. To me, that's better than a hunter. I mean...
yeah.
Yeah, if someone's already hunting the place.
Yeah.
What you got there?
I'm trying to think from the handful of permission spots, and I haven't done this in a long time. I was actually talking to a buddy about this, buddy Kyle Sides, because he was talking about some properties south of us, some private land, like little parcels around a couple different cities. And he's like, dude, if you got permission, there are some mega giants. And I'm like, I don't care to do that right now. But the couple times I've had success doing it, I mean, to be honest, you have to be likable. It doesn't matter whether it's a hunter, non-hunter, when you go up and you talk to them, more than likely at their front porch, knocking on their door, you have to be a very likable individual. They have to like you. It's kind of like what we learned in sales. Like, they gotta need to like you within 5 to 10 seconds of talking to you and hearing from you. So that's part of it. So if you're going up and you're kind of uncertain about yourself, you don't have a lot of confidence in like what you're doing, a lot of times people are going to be able to read that and they're just going to tell you no because you make them feel awkward because you're awkward in front of them. The other thing is, I've had some people tell me this. I haven't done it because I don't have a kid and I don't have a really young sibling anymore. But if you have a kid, specifically a youth hunter, again, it's not someone that's like 16, 17, 18 years old, but someone younger, and you are actively trying to find them a place to hunt, but it also opens up opportunity for you to be able to take that kid with you. Take your kid, not take a kid. Don't go borrow a kid off the street. That'd be terrible. Maybe you got a niece or nephew out there that's a young niece, nephew, and your brother, sister, in-laws, whoever lets you come borrow them for the day. But for real, like having a kid that you're trying to open up opportunity for to get them a little bit closer place to go hunt can work really well. But a lot of it, I really think it's just how you deliver yourself when you're talking to them. There's so many different ways to ask for permission. I know some guys who will trade work around the property for permission, help them, especially if it's a little bit bigger place, whether it's, helping them mow their yard, help with fences, help with whatever, fixing bird feeders, gutters, whatever. If you look at the property and especially maybe it's an older couple or an older individual or someone who maybe doesn't have a lot of help around the house, that could be a lead in that you can kind of get permissions like, hey, I love bow hunting. And also I'll say this, I've had a lot more people tell me they've had more success getting bow hunting permission than gun hunting permission.
Yes.
People do not have the perception of archery equipment being nearly as dangerous to others, in the area as, firearms. So you're probably going to have a lot more success getting archery permission than rifle permission or gun hunting permission. So take that in consideration as well and how you might work on your pitch when you're talking to somebody. But I think trading works really well. I've had guys, one of our buddies, Kyler Moppert, talk about, having a lease up in, I think it was Illinois. And the lease, I don't think it was much of a paid lease. They just went up there and they were trading homemade Louisiana Cajun food like gumbo and jambalaya and stuff, and like we're doing crawfish boil for the landowners. That was it.
Oh, that's cool.
And kind of treated them real nice. Gave them a card and all that kind of stuff, and kind of build a relationship that way, where there wasn't like a financial incentive in order for them to go hunt the place. There's a lot of different ways you can do it, but I think the big thing is kind of working out and looking at the property and look at the homeowner. Who, especially if there's a house on the property, because you could always, find a property there's no house on it. You can find the tax information for the property through OnX and contact the landowner that way, but it's a little bit harder, I feel like, over the phone. But again, if you're going to go knock on their door, figure out, like, is there anything around their property that I can maybe help out with? If you have your own company. Now, I know this. Also, I've got family members, I got friends, I know people have done this, especially if you do something like in landscaping, hardscape, landscaping, any pressure wash company, if you can trade some of your work to get permission, I've heard that's worked really well for a lot of people as well that I personally know. So like take all that in consideration and what your specialties are and how you can, again, add value to them by you getting permission to hunt. Sometimes you could probably get permission. I've got permission before in one place where it was just like, I just asked them to go and they're like, yeah, that's fine. That's cool. But like, I feel like if you have some kind of specialty, something you can do for them and they're getting a benefit from you being on the place, whether it's you looking out for poachers and people trespassing. I know a guy in Birmingham who does that and picks up a lot of property with bigger landowners, saying that like, if you don't have anybody actively hunting the place that you have permission to, there's people that are more than likely poaching the property. So by me going out there, running trail cameras, putting up no trespassing signs, I'll make sure I keep illegal or people off your property that are trespassing illegally. So you don't have any kind of liability from someone getting injured on your property and so on, and having that headache or damaging your property. So there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. Hopefully that kind of gives you a couple little pieces of advice. Andrew, what about you?
Full disclosure, I have never gained permission to hunt a piece of private property. I've never knocked on a door, never done anything like that. So anything I say, I've heard from other people. So disclaimer there. But kind of like you were just saying, that one of the more interesting techniques that I've heard is what Jacob just talked about, the idea of telling them like, hey, a lot of people trespass. It happens. If you have people maybe riding on your property, you don't want them riding side-by-sides, four-wheelers out there. Most landowners in the South with a road system probably have that problem on their place. or people poaching. You'd say, hey, I run cameras out here, I'll basically run security on the property for you and make sure that no one's using it. That's a great one, because you could also introduce the idea of liability to them, where you're like, hey, if there's people trespassing out there, you don't know what they're doing. You don't know if they're going to damage your property. You don't know if they're themselves going to get hurt. You don't want to get tied up in that. That's one thing you can do. The other thing about going up to their door, that's a really good point about that. They need to like you very quickly. So part of that I've heard from other people is like, if you're going to go do it, make sure that you're looking good. Don't wear some raggedy clothes.
Don't wear camouflage.
Don't wear camouflage. Yeah. But probably don't wear a hat. Don't wear sunglasses.
But I'll say this, don't look like a salesman either. Don't come up with a button up, like a nice
don't be
button
wearing
shirt and slacks.
No.
Don't have a clipboard or nothing like that on you.
No.
Just look like you kind of blend into the area. That's a really good point. Also, one other thing I forgot to mention.
Keep your beard well kept, or if you shave, make sure you shave.
Don't look like a sketchy individual.
Yeah.
That's half the battle.
Don't look like a crackhead.
Their first observation when they see you, are you scaring them? Or they're like, oh, this looks like a decent person I'm talking to.
What's this fella want?
Exactly. One other thing, when you're knocking on somebody's door, and I learned this actually back in, I guess it was high school or college. I did some door-to-door sales for like just a little bit, like a summer or something. And when you knock on somebody's door, don't stand right next to the door, whether they have like a storm door, which is like the glass door that opens up, and then they actually have the wooden door behind it, or a metal door, or if they just have the straight front door. Don't stand right there. If there's stairs going up onto the quote-unquote little front porch or whatever, get back on one of those stairs, kind of give them some space and get slightly lower elevation, especially if you're a really tall fella. Don't stand up there right next to them. Kind of get down a couple steps and give them a little bit of space, which is make them feel a little more comfortable than you standing right there on top of them. If you're standing right there on top of them, that's when you get the whole cracking door where they barely open the door and they're already kind of sketched out because you're right there. Give them some space. Sometimes knock on the door if there's not a lot of landing between the top step and the door, like maybe it's only like 4 feet. Go all the way down to the stairs. If there's only 6 or 8 stairs, stand at the bottom of the stairs so when they open the door, they're more willing to come out and be able to talk to you instead of, again, cracking the door.
Yeah,
so
that's a really good point.
All that kind of stuff will give you a lot more opportunity just to get a conversation going. You might get a no, but, you don't ever know until you ask. Also, another thing about this topic. If it's semi-suburban area or they just have a lot of landscaping. If you pull up to a house that's got, say, 30, 40, 50 acres, 100 acres, and they've got a lot of flowers, rose bushes, whatever around the house, they more than likely have deer that are trying to eat their landscaping and eat their plants that they've planted and take care of, especially if it's a pretty well-kept yard. A lot of those people do not like deer eating their plants. They might have spent tens of thousands of dollars on that, and maybe bring that up in part of the conversation as well. Like, are you having issues with deer coming in eating your plants? Taylor Chamberlain, who we did an episode with a long time ago, and somehow we lost that episode.
Yeah, file got corrupted. Sorry, Taylor, if you ever watch. I think we did one after that with him.
Maybe we did, but the first one like 7 years ago.
Yeah,
and he was talking about that in Virginia and some of the suburban places he hunts. Getting permission was like telling people, like, bring up the conversation about them eating the landscaping because they're in nicer neighborhoods and people don't like deer destroying their plants. And then also because of the Lyme disease and Rocky Mountain spotted fever and alpha-gal, all the tick-borne illnesses that people are getting in these high concentration of deer density neighborhoods and areas, that he's kind of almost going in as like an exterminator and removing deer, and he's doing it for a neighbor down the street. Would you care to, me do that on your place, kind of lower the deer numbers so you're not having so many issues? There's a bunch of different ways you can do it, but definitely the landscaping, looking at their landscaping, if it's a nice, well-kept house with nice landscaping, that's a point that you can kind of bring up with them as well.
Yeah, that's a good angle for the suburban, and then if you're looking more rural, the angle might be the whole trespasser thing.
But there's some nice houses.
Well, yeah, I know. I'm just saying, but if you're looking at a property that maybe somebody owns but they don't live on, that could be another thing. Trespassers. So, anyways, Nelson, appreciate that question. That's a fun one. Next up, and we hope to see you at one of these trade shows soon, man. This one is from Joel Parati from Louisiana.
Hey guys, this is Joel from Central Louisiana. Longtime fan. Started listening back, I believe, in the 100 episodes, and I want to tell y'all congratulations on the 700 episodes. And a lot of hard work, sweat, tears went into all that. My question today is about midday movement. Due to my work schedule, I get to hunt during the week a lot, middle of the day. And in all the GPS and biologists y'all have talked to, is there any trigger that kind of makes you see a spike in movement on the deer from either moon phase, weather pattern, anything like that, or any tactics I should maybe be focusing on? Appreciate all the hard work, and thanks for all the information y'all provide.
All right, appreciate the question, Joel. All right, midday movement. So he mentioned specifically the GPS episodes that we've done, and I want to say yes, there was some stuff in there about how in the mornings the deer were moving. There'd be, like Bronson described them as movement bouts, and there'd be a big movement bout that first part of the morning, like say daylight to 8 a.m. or so. But there'd be another smaller movement bout around 10 to noon. And I think what Bronson was saying about that is a lot of those bucks, it seemed like they were feeding all night and they're kind of going back to where they want to be for the rest of the day. And they might stop off somewhere around 8 a.m., 7, 8 a.m., whatever the case may be, kind of early in the morning. And then mid-morning, they might move deeper back into that thicker cover. And that's something that, not just the GPS guys, but I mean, a lot of the, actually, Scott Seals, who was just on a couple weeks ago with Mark Tatum, Scott loves hunting midday. Wes likes hunting midday.
Well, even early season, Scott likes hunting midday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. So a lot of the guys that we talked to, a lot of the guys who've been killing big deer for a long time, they really like that midday movement period. So tips for setting up on it, what do you think?
Well, Scott, that'd be a good episode to go back to. I need to look up Scott's episode on feed trees. But he talks about a lot in, not this past episode we did with him last week, but last year or 2 years ago when we had him on, finding feed trees in these tight little SMZ, stream side management zones, the little hardwood drains that runs up between the pines. Finding a hot feed tree right there where the bedding is super close, like the thick pines are right there, and they don't have to go, depending on how far in their bedding, they don't have to go more than maybe 100 yards to come to that feed tree. Mm-hmm. That oak that's dropping acorns, specifically a white oak early season, and how much movement of bucks he has, both on camera and also visually sees early in bow season. Now, early in bow season's mid-October for us in Alabama, in like the zone that Scott's hunting in. But early bow season, having bucks come down to that food source, that feed tree, mid-morning, 10, 11, 12 o'clock, even 1 o'clock midday, and having activity come down. So if you can find, in your circumstance, hot feed tree, oak dropping in and around close to the bedding area that's got sign there, you probably are going to be in a pretty good spot for a midday sit. Also, I would say, if you're going to be hunting anything midday like that, the closer you can be to quality bedding, the better off you're going to be. I don't think there's any reason to go sit in a wide open oak flat, hundreds of yards from bedding, because more than likely that's going to be their evening bout, early morning bout, where they're going to be feeding before they're going all the way back to their bedding area. So the closer you can get to that bedding area, I think that's what works so good for Scott, is being tight to the bedding area, having a hot feed tree, dropping next to those pines. Works really well for him. I think that could work for you, especially early season. Now, if you start getting later in the season, a little pre-rut action, that's jam up. Nice travel corridor in between doe bedding areas could be fantastic midday sit. And also, if you're on public land, you're going to have a lot less people out there doing the same thing. Most guys are going to be hunting in the morning up to probably 10 o'clock. They're leaving. They're going to come back about 2:30, 3 o'clock and get back in the tree and so on. So if you're hunting in between that window of time of when there's hunters in the woods, you could have a really good hunt there, focus on travel corridors close to doe bedding, closer to the rut.
Yeah. I was going to say the exact same thing about the rut. Just your traditional funnels and everything, hunt those midday. We've both had luck doing that. Yeah. One of the bucks I killed on this, on a place that we used to hunt, I killed him at like 11 a.m. on the dot. Didn't see anything until I sat there at daylight. I was going to sit till like noon, and he came through at 11 on the dot.
Well, like that ancient 6-point I shot 2 seasons ago. I think it was 2, maybe 3. I kind of lost track now. It was like 12:15 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Exactly midday when I shot that deer. And he came through with the doe, trailing doe and was fighting off another buck, chasing off another buck when I shot him. So, there's a lot of advantage if you have the opportunity to hunt midday. You just got to think strategically, and also put your cameras in those kind of spots where you're maybe trying to get some of that midday movement as well. There's no wrong putting a camera in a spot, where you're getting a lot of nighttime movement, early morning, afternoon. But if you're specifically trying to hunt midday, those small, tight little travel corridors going between doe bedding areas where that buck can really ease through their midday and get some kind of scenting advantage, especially with a rising thermal and stronger winds midday, could work really well for you if you can find those spots.
Yeah, definitely. And the last thing I'll say on it is if you are hunting it outside of the rut, like we were talking about, getting real close to bedding, like what Scott and guys like that do, for those spots, you're going to want to make sure that your access is dialed, and ideally at spots that you already know about and you're not trying to scout your way in there. So actually, a little update here. We'll talk more about this later, but I've been doing that here in Alabama this year on the new club. I've been going out and locating feed trees specifically for early season. And man, we are loaded this year. I mean, it's going to be a bumper year. But that's what I've been doing. I've been finding the trees that I want to hunt. And because all the trees are loaded, I've been trying to locate the spots that I can get into really easily that are close to cover. And I've already cleared my trails. I've already cleared out under the trees. Like if there's just a little bit of brush that I want to go on, picked out the trees I'm going to climb. I've got 3 spots set up already specifically for that. Like I probably will do some midday hunting on some cool fronts that come through this October. But anyways, let's move on. Appreciate that question, Joel. Last up, we got Charles Moon from Texas.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Charles from South Texas. My question is, if you're managing a property, we've got 150 acres here. I don't want to over-harvest, but I don't want to under-harvest. What's a good population of deer? Right now, we're going through a real wet spell, so as you can see, I mean, it's just, there's browse everywhere. You can walk through on some trails and see them pluck off tops of just young growth, and I've got 4 feeders out, so kind of tightens up. Food kind of tightens up early winter if we're in a dry spell. But yeah, I mean, what's a tactic to figure out how many deer you got on your property, and what's a good number as far as, how many does, how many bucks? Obviously the bucks come through, different bucks come through now and then, but yeah, I mean, if you guys could help me out with that, that'd be cool, because everything else I've got pretty much on lock. We're harvesting does and bucks and good sized bucks and plenty of pigs and turkeys and lots of quail out here. So yeah, you guys are cool, by the way. I like your show, so appreciate you.
Charles, I think you're cool too, man. That's a good question.
I love the cowboy hat.
Jacob got fired up when he saw the hat.
I was like, oh, no, straight Texan now. I like it.
Yeah. All right. So, figuring out your population.
I'm going to let you go first because I've got a lot to say on it.
All right. Once again, I'm not a deer manager, so take it with a grain of salt. But I've talked to a whole bunch of deer managers.
Biologists, yeah.
Biologists, managers, same thing. One thing that I know is that it's actually really hard to like count how many deer you have. Even people who fly thermal drones, they'll say that they can count all the deer on your property, but there's certain issues with that they're trying to work out right now, of like methods of how to effectively do that to get the most accurate count. But camera surveys, that's one way you can do it. But one simple way that I've heard where you can tell if you do have too many deer is if you go walk your property and you're talking about seeing a lot of browse all over the place. Are they browsing on high quality species, or are they browsing on low quality species? And is there a defined browse line? So for instance, you'll see people, we don't have it as much down here, but like in the Midwest, they'll have multiflora rose, which is an invasive, and it's not high quality deer food, but sometimes you'll go to a property and that multiflora rose will be browsed super heavy, or you'll be standing in the woods and you can look out. It's like a cattle pasture. Like if you look at the edge of a cattle pasture, you'll see the edge of that pasture usually. All those trees are just like, it looks like someone came through and just cut them. And that's where the cattle walk up and they browse as high as they can reach, and it creates a browse line around the whole pasture. Well, you can find the same thing in the woods. If you see that in the woods, you probably got too many deer. Or on your property, whatever that looks like. If you're finding them browsing on just low quality species that a deer probably shouldn't be eating, like cedar trees or something like that, that's a red flag that you probably have too many deer. But if you're not seeing that, then I mean, it sounds like you might be in good shape. I don't know. What do you have?
Yeah. This is what I was going to say is this would be a great conversation to have with your neighbors. And I don't know what kind of relationship you have with your neighbors, but for any landowner out there, if you can build a relationship with the 3, 4, 5 landowners around you and see what they're seeing, and also like as in deer numbers, but also asking them like what is their harvest records, how many deer, especially does, have they been taken over the last couple seasons. Even if they don't have it written down, they probably have a general ballpark idea of what they've taken off the properties. And if you're going out there and you have a trail camera like on a bait site, like a feeder, and there's 10 or more does in one image out there, you probably have a little bit too many just does. And I'm not saying you go whack every single doe, but the one thing about smaller properties, and we had a great conversation about this with Dr. Steve Ditchkoff from Auburn University, specifically on can you harvest too many does. And he said he had one example, like great example, which was down in on Fort Rucker, South Alabama, where they were harvesting, like they were telling hunters harvest every single doe that you see, and he joked about like every single doe you see and then some. And they knocked the population down real low, and then the coyotes moved in, and the coyotes held the population super low. Where they went from, I can't remember how many deer they were killing on the 50,000 acres, but went all the way down to only 50 deer on 50,000 acres that they were harvesting. So 1 deer per 1,000 acres, which is crazy low. Crazy low. If there's actually a decent amount of hunters out there.
Especially in South Alabama.
Yeah, especially South Alabama. But on a small property like that, really you're not going to make a huge difference as in like hurting the general population. We've had a couple of different again habitat managers or biologists and managers on the podcast talk about this. You're not going to be able to make a big enough difference because there's so many more deer in the surrounding your neighborhood of property owners that are going to kind of shift onto it. So say you went out there on 150 acres and you killed 15 does, there are so many more doe groups around it that when you kill those does and the habitat, the vegetation grows up and is high quality, more deer are going to move into it. So on a smaller property like that, I think you can do a lot with it. But again, kind of like Andrew, what you're saying, you're looking for browse lines and also just look at your trail cameras. Like, are you seeing double-digit does specifically on camera in one frame on a feeder? Well, then you probably can, harvest a few more for sure. Same thing, talking to your neighbors, asking what your neighbors are doing, what they're seeing, and their responses as well. Because the habitat looked awesome. I mean, that
looks good.
Country, or I don't know what that is, brush country, but all the vegetation underneath, that green vegetation, looks super lush, super great, which is great for a carrying capacity in the summertime. But yeah, that's kind of what I would recommend is, again, talking to neighbors and then analyzing trail cam photos from the last couple of years and kind of seeing how many deer are you getting on one feeder at one time. Because if it's only 3 or 4 or 5 at a time, okay, you could kill a handful of does, probably be really good. But if you got double-digit does on there, feel free, invite some buddies out and let's go kill 8 or 10 of them this year.
Yeah, that's a debate you hear a lot because there's kind of two schools of thought around it, and that is some people don't like knocking down the doe population because they want to see more deer. They want to, have hunts where they have more encounters. And then there's other people who cannot kill enough does. And we know a bunch of people like that who just can't kill enough.
Well, Alan Summerford.
Yeah, Alan's like that.
So who's been on the podcast a bunch in the past, and he's a great example of someone who has done a really good job trying to shoot a bunch of does on his properties, and he's getting a much more concentrated rut on those places where more chasing activity, more buck activity, because there's less options. When you have a super out of whack, and we've had tons of biologists talk about this on the podcast, if you've got 3 or 4 does per buck, and it doesn't even have to be that out of whack, but it can be that out of whack or worse, the bucks don't have to travel in order to really breed does, and they don't have to move as much because a doe group might have 8 or 10 does in it on this 100-acre little spot. They can breed those does. They don't have to travel. They don't have to fight. So there's a lot less opportunity that you're going to be able to see a buck actually cruising during the rut. And that's why parts of Alabama, you hear guys like, man, it didn't seem like the rut was going on this year. I saw tons of does, didn't see a buck. Well, he didn't have to travel because there's tons of does. And Alan's really been a great example of how he's been able to manage some of his properties to really lower the doe numbers to kind of get a little bit more balance so that when the rut happens, first of all the does are getting bred in that 28-day window of time, but also he's getting fantastic rut action with bucks fighting. They're cruising, they're moving, they're very active during the rut. And again, if you're not seeing it on your property, probably have too many does.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's another good telltale sign that browsing on low quality forage and if your rut sucks every year. Those are two good signs of maybe you need to knock out some of them does, buddy. So great questions. Appreciate it.
Listen, hey guys, if you want to be on the podcast like some of these guys, write in or submit a video Q&A at thesouthernoutdoorsman.com, or there's a link down in the show notes video description below where you can submit your video and again get your opportunity to be able to be on the podcast, and we kind of answer some of your questions as well. So we love seeing them. So come hop on the podcast, submit us a video Q&A, and we'll answer it on here. So appreciate everybody that wrote them in today.
Oh yeah, now I'm in a hoodie because this studio is so cold right now.
I love it.
I'm freezing. But also this hoodie also just came out, so y'all go get this at the website, southernoutdoorsman.com, at the shop. It's just a vintage black hoodie with a nice embroidered logo on it. Nice and clean. But anyways, let's get to some season updates. I've been doing a bunch of scouting here lately. Been putting some cameras out. Got a lot going on. But first, you were talking about joining a club down more South Alabama. Decided to not do that?
Correct.
Okay.
And now maybe looking at another one. And really, I'm still not all that excited, I'll be honest, about getting in the club or getting in a club. The only thing I'm thinking of is like a little more gun hunting opportunity during the rut, outside of some of the hunts on public land, and then turkey opportunity, having a week earlier to hunt turkeys, since private opens a week earlier than public does. So yeah, nothing's gone on there. So I have not joined a club yet. Haven't joined the Privileged Land Hunters quite yet either. But it may not happen. So y'all have to stay tuned and see what happens there.
So wait, what about this other club? Are you gonna join it? I mean, it's getting late in the summer. A lot of clubs they filled up, son.
Y'all still trying to fill spots. So
yeah, they are.
I mean, listen,
still got a spot trying to fill.
Yeah. If anyone wants to join Andrew's club, you can DM Andrew and he'll get you a hookup.
Maybe. I'm just kidding.
All right, guys, we got another in the field tip for you today. One thing we're doing right now while we're out here scouting is looking at overlooked spots and overlooked by us. One thing we always do while we're in the field is using our tracker on Onyx Hunt to be able to not only see where we've gone, but where we haven't been, and that's what we're going to go look at. So today, we're actually going to work up into a drainage that we haven't been to before. We've walked all around it, but we haven't been up in it. And again, it's a very important factor of using the tracker so you can see where you have been and where you haven't. A lot of times those places you haven't been is your overlooked spots. So if you want to try Onyx Hunt, you can download Onyx Hunt today and use the code SOUTHERN and save 20% on your membership. As you guys hear on the podcast all the time, we talk about mobile hunting for whitetail, staying mobile in the field, not always hunting the same spot twice, and really checking out new ground. If you're interested in getting into mobile hunting this fall, you need to check out the Mobile Hunters Expo in Dalton, Georgia, August 8th through the 10th. This is the third year of the Mobile Hunters Expos in the Deep South, second year in Dalton, Georgia. This is something we've been going to for 3 years now, and it's a great resource to try to find and learn new gear that you can be using this fall to make you more mobile and more efficient as a whitetail hunter. All the top brands in the mobile hunting community will be there, where you can try a bunch of different saddles, sticks, tree stands, and much more. If you're interested in becoming more mobile this fall, you can check out and get more information at themobilehuntersexpo.com and buy your tickets today. We look forward to seeing you in Dalton, Georgia, August 8th through the 10th. Hey guys, it's Jake. We got a quick tip for you in this podcast. One thing I've been working on over the last year is trying to figure out how to be less bulky really while saddle hunting and mobile whitetail hunting. And the biggest issue I always had was I really liked really large packs, and the problem was outside of certain points of the season, like when it got really cold, I never used the full capacity of some of those really big backpacks. And one thing I started doing is using a smaller pack that has a lot more expandable capacity, so you can still pack a lot of stuff if you need to, but it's also very streamlined. It's super easy to go in and out of the woods with, especially during early season or just when you're not packing a lot of cold weather gear. This is the Latitude Ranger 22. I used this all last season, and I could pack a surprising amount of gear in that pack, specifically a bunch of cold weather gear, both bibs, jackets, extra layers, along with a platform, or when I was hybrid hunting with a small little lock-on, having a small lock-on on here as well, along with my sticks. And this backpack works really well with that. So if you're in the market for a new backpack and you're trying to streamline what you're doing, I'd really highly recommend looking at the Ranger 22 from Latitude Outdoors. And you can check out the Ranger 22 at latitudeoutdoors.com.
So on our club, we've been looking around a little bit. Me and Mike finally got a chance to go out the other day and really scout the place out. And one thing about the place is when you look at it on the map, it looks like it is just pines. Like there's almost nothing out there except pines. And we started diving off down into some of these little bottoms. Oh, well, one thing, let me back up. You know how I talked about we got the map with the areas and we got the logbook.
You get posted.
I don't know if I'm...
You get put on the pod.
Maybe on Patreon.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we've got a logbook, and when you go hunt, you've got to put your name down, the date, and what area you are hunting.
Unit.
And the property is broken up into units, so you're like Andrew Maxwell, October 15th, unit 41 or whatever. And it's just little areas that you hunt. So you don't pin out on like a spot, you pin out on an area. And which I like because it gives you a little leeway of what you can do. Because at my old club, you pinned on the spot, and they like really wanted you to pin right where you were at. And I didn't.
Never did.
Yeah, I didn't do that. But also you didn't have to sign out of like where you were. And the reason they do it at the new club is so if you get there Saturday afternoon and you want to go hunt unit 18, you can say, oh, well, Jacob was here this morning and he hunted 18, so I don't want to hunt there because someone already hunted this morning. So that's why they do it. Well, that logbook's still sitting in there. So I took pictures of that sucker, and I made myself a little heat map of exactly how many times each unit was hunted.
And I will say the heat map is amazing. Aerial imagery, all the units broken out.
Yep.
Shaded colors, shade of red of how much they've been hunted, and it is fascinating.
Yep.
To be honest, if y'all are in a club, anybody's in a club that does the same kind of thing, unit breakdown, you might not know how to do the heat map. Andrew's got a whole background building maps and everything.
Yeah.
But
used to be my day job.
it is fascinating what it will show you.
The pressure is not where I thought it'd be.
No.
At all.
Because you showed me. So, like, talk a little bit more about it. I mean, what was like some of
Basically, two corners of the property are red hot. That's where all the pressure is at. And there's a couple units that never got hunted a single time last year. No one ever signed out on those units. And what it is, I mean, it's a typical heat map. I mean, all the pressure is concentrated basically in two areas on the property. And it'd be like if unit like 1, for instance, is red hot, it got hunted the most. And all the units around it got hunted a lot. But then the further you get away from it, the pressure just petered out. And most of the units that were hunted the most had the biggest, nicest food plots on them, which is to be expected. So you can make an assumption like these people were just going and hunting those food plots, most likely. And so not only do I know what units were hunted the most, but they're probably hunting those food plots, like educated guess. So even though those units were hunted a lot, I still am probably going to go look around in there. Because just because they're hunting that food plot doesn't mean that there's not bucks cruising 150 yards off the back side of it, which we found. We found a spot, son. I'm so excited. So me and Mike went out there, and my first thought was, because it's just pines out there, I mean, just every age pine you could think of, I'm just going to look at the topo map, and I'm going to go find my favorite looking terrain features, and I'm going to go just look at terrain features. I'm not even going to look at the satellite image, really. I just want to go look at terrain features and find funnels. So we went out there and started doing that, and we were going to look at the terrain features that were in the units that were the least pressure last year, okay? So first spot we went to, I mean, as soon as we walked in the woods, it's like scrape, rub, I mean, right where we wanted to find them, big, heavy trails. And one thing that we noticed as we got into the pines is they left white oaks in those pines, like big white oaks, where the whole SMZ, it'd be, some of the SMZs are nothing but hardwoods, but some of them are actually mostly pine, where at some point in the past, they cut slam over that creek. And, these aren't like running creeks. They're like little intermittent streams. Like most of the year, they're dry. But when it rains real hard, they run water. Well, on those, they cut slam across them, but some oaks came back up in them. Some of those oaks are pretty big, and we were checking those feed trees, checking all those oaks for acorns, and every single one I looked at was loaded.
White oaks or red oaks?
Both. Water oaks, red oaks, white oaks, you name it. All of them just loaded. Black oaks, blackjacks, all of them loaded. It got to a point where I quit looking at them. I'm like, every single tree out here made this year, which I like hunting years like that. I actually like hunting a really good mast year.
Well, especially on a property like that where it's still 99% pine. Mm-hmm. It's not like there's thousands of oaks out there. Like there may, I don't know what the number could be, but in some of these areas there might be only a couple in a section, a unit. Mm-hmm. So it's like you got good bedding and there's only a handful that they can go to. It really isolates. Like it's good because you have like trees that are producing, but also it's not like there's so many trees you have to literally walk miles to try to find the tree. If they're dropping, they're probably gonna be hitting them in those units.
Yeah, and a lot of those SMZs, because they're so tight and skinny in those pines, they got so much sunlight that the understory's thick in them. And it might be cane, it might be sparkleberry, it might be whatever, privet, or a mix of all of that. And we found spots in there that, again, just big, giant white oaks, loaded. I'm talking about limbs hanging down. There's so many acorns on them. And they're going to be dropping right into like a sandy, cane-choked bottom. I mean, it looks good. And there's whip rubs in there from last year. There's big rubs probably from the rut last year where, I mean, just textbook. They're coming off the pine ridges and they're coming down in those SMZs at night. So we ended up putting out a whole bunch of cameras, but a lot of the spots, like I don't even need a camera. I'm already picking trees. There's spots in those planted pines that we found that lead down into those. There's one spot where there's a big giant thermal hub, big bowl on the property where 2 or 3 of these creek drainages all meet, and it's like a big wide bottom. And there's a ridge above it, and the bottom third of that ridge has a little bitty finger ridge that comes off of it. It's like maybe 20 feet high, and it's flat. I mean, flat across the top, and it runs way out into that thermal hub, and about 250 yards or so out into that hub. And they cleared a skidder trail down it when they logged it, or when they thinned it a couple years ago. And dude, there's a pine tree up there. This is in one of the units that never got hunted last year. There's a pine tree that you can climb up there, and you can see straight down that thing, straight for like 218 yards. I had my rangefinder, and it's right in between 2 of those SMZs that are full of loaded white oaks, bedding all around it. I mean, for a rut spot, it looks so good. Or even not a rut spot, even just when our gun season opens in November, like they're gonna be bouncing back and forth in there.
And the ruts in January.
Yeah, about New Year's for that area.
Now, what about you? You put some cameras out though, and what we get on some cameras?
So, again, just trying to focus the cameras on easy to access spots, road crossings. A lot of it's just driving around the place, looking for big tracks on the side of the road, like what Scott and Mark were talking about. And I took Tiff out there, Tiff and Piper, my daughter. We went out there the other day and just rode around the whole time, looking out the windows. You know, I had them looking out the passenger. I was looking out the driver's side, and we were like looking, rubbernecking. And every time we saw tracks, we'd get out and look at them, see if there's any big ones. Well, we crossed this one spot that, again, in a area of the club, not hunted, good looking terrain feature, oaks nearby, area that I was already interested in. And sure enough, get out on the side of the road right there, there's a little faint trail crossing the road. I mean, it's just like a little trail. You drive right by it and not know it was there. And there's a little mud bank right there where the trail comes onto the road. And right there, dude, just a big old 4-finger track. I mean, I was like, hey, Tiff, come here, I'll show you that. I mean, straight up, just lay my hand right in it. Like Piper is putting her whole entire hand in it. It's like one Piper hand. And I was like, we're going to put a camera right here. So we put a camera up, and that evening, had some bucks come by. Nothing big, just a little bachelor group, little rack bucks. And then the following morning, I think it might have been the same group came by, but one of the bucks is nice. Like he's already like way outside the ears. And he's really tall as well. So he's not just wide, like he's coming out like that. I mean, he's nice and wide, nice and tall. His G2 is already probably 4 or 5 inches. And for us at this point in the year, they're like just now really starting to frame out good. Like their beams aren't done growing or anything. So it's probably going to be mid-August before we see what they're like really going to look like. But he's like already a shooter. And when he's walking profile, you're like, oh yeah, there's a buck. But then when he looks at the camera, he looks and he's like, he's nice. So already got him on camera. That's the first good one that we've had out so far. They've only been out there for like 4 days. So we'll see what else shows up.
But that was in one of those units with no pressure.
Yeah, that was the unit he's in did get hunted, but it only got hunted like, I'll say this. The whole property had like 480 man days on it last year. So 480 times someone signed in and hunted it, which is like pretty high pressure. It's not crazy, but it's pretty high pressure. That place in the whole season got hunted less than 10 times. So less than 10 man days on that in the whole season. And the units around it are like that as well. And it's kind of sandwiched between higher pressure areas. So there's like a streak where these units, there's less pressure in these units, and they're right there, right smack in the middle of where the highest concentrations of pressures are. Now it's the summer. They might leave. They probably will relocate, but I've seen it go both ways on places like this, where sometimes they leave, a lot of times they don't. They stay like right there where they're at. And when you look at the habitat, there's really not a reason for them to leave. I mean, they're going to have plenty of mass to feed on. They've got tons of native browse in there that looks really good. They've got tons of cover. They've got water. So I don't really expect them to relocate. And probably what I'm going to do is just leave those cameras right there on those road crossings, and I'll probably go walk around in there and find trees that I want to hunt, and then I'm not going to run cameras in there. I'm not going to go walk in there unless I'm going to hunt it, and I'm only going to hunt it on cold fronts. So that's my plan this year, is I'm just going to go ahead and pick my trees, and I'm not going to do as much of the scouting with a stand on my back like I did on the other club that I was in before. So that's kind of my strategy this year. I'm gonna hopefully. I'm putting cameras out there now just to see what's around and see what kind of bucks there are, and I'm basically just gonna hunt public land except for really good conditions on that club, and then I'm just only gonna hunt the club on those really good conditions. So that's the plan. We're gonna see how it goes. But so far, man, I'm feeling pretty good. It looks good. Same thing with Mike. He scouted some stuff that I wasn't with him on, and he went into one little bottom in particular that I was really interested in, and he found a bunch of buck sign down there. He found scrapes. He found rubs. We got a picture of a hen turkey with like 5 poults, like big poults. Like they looked almost like grown turkeys. So, I mean, it's looking great so far. But that's the plan. That's the plan. We're going to keep at it. Oh, the spot I was talking about earlier. One of those higher pressure units. So there's a really high pressure unit that butts up against 2 units that never got hunted last year. And I'm like, what's the deal with that? So we drive over there, and there's a food plot that I didn't know was there. That's where all that pressure was most likely coming from. People were going to hunt that food plot. The little road that goes to the shooting house is wore out. It's a beautiful food plot. It's on a ridge top. Got a nice shooting house on it. It's like a long field that kind of goes and like rolls up the hill. Beautiful spot. Well, we went in there, and I was looking at the map, and I was looking at the LiDAR on Onyx, and I could see back behind it there was like a ditch or something. Like, I didn't know if it was an old road that got cut in, but it was like clearly a man-made ditch runs up through a saddle right off the backside of this food plot. So like the food plot's on the hill, and it rolls off, and there's a saddle, and that ditch goes right up through that saddle. And I was like, I just want to go look at that real quick. We had like another hour to kill before we had to get home. And so I was like, well, let's just go walk over there and look at that. So we go walk down there, and we walk right off the backside of the food plot. I drove through the food plot, parked in the back of it, and I mean, you could almost see my truck through the woods. And we get down there into that saddle, and sure enough, it's some man-made ditch that goes up through there. But right in the middle of the saddle, there's like an old road bed that crosses that ditch. It's like a little land bridge. And right there on that land bridge, dude, on the other side of it, there's 3 monster trails.
Oh.
Monster trails coming together. Just beat down deer trails. And there's a scrape.
Oh,
Right.
and that's what I was thinking. So
There's a scrape.
Okay.
Now, the scrape was, it's mostly pines in there. It's kind of thick pine saplings, not like stuff you got to push through, but there's just a lot of stems. So the pine saplings are all, 25 feet tall, but they're all, smaller around than a pool cue, or about the size of a pool cue.
And they're 25 foot tall?
Yeah, they're longleaf saplings.
Huh.
And, I mean, they just look like big old cane poles almost. And they're real thick in there, and there's one scrape in a little spot where they could get a scrape that was on a sweet gum sapling. And I mean, it was not a very impressive scrape, but it was there. And I was telling Mike, I'm like, this seems like a spot where we should put a mock scrape because there's a scrape here. There's obviously a lot of deer coming to it. It sets up so perfect for a buck coming in the evening. He maybe wants to go to that food plot, and he's just going to sit there in that low spot until it gets dark, and then he'll come up into that food plot half an hour after the sun goes down. So we backed off of the land bridge a little bit, and there's no licking branches in there basically at all. Everything's stemmed out. So I found a hickory sapling, and I bent it over, tied it off to another tree where the limb it's a perfect little licking branch, kind of like what Bobby does, Bobby Worthington, what he showed us in that scouting video we did with him. I did that and put a camera on it, and we'll see. Cleared out the little area so you can see it good.
Is it off the ridge, kind of where you did that, or where is it at?
So it's a really interesting little spot. Again, maybe we'll probably show this on one of our next hunter hangouts on Patreon. Everyone who jumps on there, we'll look at the map if people want to see it, and I'll show them where it is and like how it sets up. But it's actually like a double saddle. It's kind of interesting. So this is where two ridge systems kind of meet each other. So there's one running north and south, one running east and west. And this saddle, man, it's weird how it sets up. There's like a high spot kind of right next to that land bridge. And on one side of that high spot, there's a saddle that comes right up to that land bridge. And then on the other side, there's another saddle that comes from the other ridge that leads straight into that same spot. And that's where those trails are coming from. So there's two saddles right there. It's basically like all these ridges come together.
Like
there's a depression right there, and there's a high spot off to the side of it. And you could just walk around that high spot in a circle and go through two different saddles and get to the same spot. It's weird. I didn't realize it was like that until I was actually standing in it, looking at onX, and I'm like, oh, this is like a double saddle kind of thing. And that ditch in both directions has a nice trail running right down the ditch, and then there's two other
How
trails.
deep's the ditch?
Probably 10 foot.
Okay, like actual cut out ditch.
Oh yeah, you can fall into it.
Oh, okay, wow.
And then
How wide?
probably
Could you jump it?
no.
Okay,
It's probably 12 yards wide.
you couldn't jump it. I could jump it.
I got a great video of Jacob jumping a ditch last year. Like, dude can hop.
So
But anyways, so it's got the trails running down the edges of the ditch, and then there's two other trails that come in just from like out in the woods in different directions, and they all just meet right there like spokes on a
could you
bicycle.
find anything around there, bedding or anything else that,
We didn't walk that far in.
but like no super visual obstruction back in there that you can see?
Not at the land bridge. It's kind of like where JT shot that buck
Oh, okay.
a couple years ago. It's like that. The pines, but it's thicker than that. Not like the kind of thick that's bedding. It's all trees, but they're just real close together.
Shaded out pretty good.
Oh yeah, shaded out.
Ooh, got that little dark kind of shade area that says dark all day long.
Yeah, they're dark pines, like what.
That Scott talked about.
Yeah, and there's a couple oaks up there in that ditch
So how the heck
that
do you?
are loaded.
That's not a big kind of tough to hunt though. As in like,
Oh, I don't know how I'd hunt it.
I mean, could you? Is there any trees that you could get in, or you could sit on the ground, or get off of it?
You could definitely hunt it from the ground. I'd actually feel really confident, even with a bow going in there and hunting it off the ground, because
Is it too tight though? You can't shoot past like 15 yards, 20 yards.
if you trimmed some stuff, just snipped a couple limbs, you could probably shoot 30 yards in there pretty easily. But again, it's just high stem count. It's not like a bunch of bushy limbs hanging out.
Yeah, it's
It's just trees like lined up.
could a big buck walk through that,
Yeah.
or is it set up for a little narrow rack?
Yeah, dude, those are the ones I'm looking for. Give me that cow horn spike.
he get through it, swinging his head.
He'd be swinging his head like that. But anyways, it looks great. I'll go back in there at some point and actually pick a tree and probably walk it a little bit more. That block of pines doesn't set up great for bedding, but probably 180-ish yards through the woods. Like I was saying, that ditch runs through there, and then the two trails kind of go out into the woods. If you follow those two trails about 180 to about 250 yards, depending on which direction you go, they cross a dim little road and go into some pines that are really good bedding. Like, I don't know how old they are, but the kind of pines that we look for bedding. They're thick underneath. They got all kinds of blackberry, like the kind of pines you do not want to walk through. They go straight towards that. So you could hunt it. You could hunt the land bridge and get all that travel. That's like probably a really good rut spot. Or you could go find spots on that road. We drove that road on the way out that they crossed to get into the bedding block and found trails crossing that. And the problem with that road is it's really, really hilly and it's really narrow and it's kind of thick. But there are spots you could sit with a rifle. Well, there are a couple spots you could sit with a bow, but it'd be easier with a rifle where you could sit and you could watch through these little saddles in that road where they're coming out of that bedding block and going towards that land bridge. But you're only going to be able to see 50 to 80 yards max in a lot of those spots. And you're just watching a nice little dip in the road where they're going to be crossing out of those pines going towards that food plot and that land bridge.
How far off is the land bridge from the food plot?
Less than 100 yards. Definitely less than 100 yards. So it's right off the back side of it too. Like if you were sitting in that shooting house, if a buck or if a deer crossed that land bridge and walked up there, it would pop out directly on the other side of the food plot, like all the way in the very, very back.
How long is the food plot?
I didn't measure it, but probably 100 yards. That's a pretty big food plot for around here. But I look at the food plot like it's probably a draw for the deer, because going back to the GPS stuff, when we looked at our GPS data that we got from Auburn, which is on our Patreon also, a lot, even on public land, the bucks were going to those food plots, like a lot, but it was always at night. And it just sets up really good. Like I see it as a great transition area and a great staging area. So transition area being, we've got the thick pines I was talking about. They're anywhere, depending on the direction, 250 to 300 yards from the food plot. And then you go into these dark pines that aren't really thick underneath, but they're high stem count. You can't see that far through them. That's your transition area. And then if you want to call it that, really that little ditch is a great little staging area. It's a low spot. It's got some browse in it. It's got oaks in it that all have masts this year. And it's a low spot right beneath that food plot. So a buck can sit there in the evening and get those thermals before he walks up in there when the thermals switch. So I don't know exactly how I'm going to hunt it yet, but I'm going to figure it out because it looks fantastic. And going back to not being super invasive too, I put a camera on that land bridge just because I couldn't help myself. But if I put any other cameras in there, I'd probably put a camera on the food plot, in the back corner of the food plot where one of those trails enters it, and just see what's coming to the food plot. Like, I don't care if it's at night because I think I know where they're coming from. The only other thing I might do is on that little dim road I was talking about that you could hunt right where they come out of the bedding, I would maybe put a camera on that road bed looking at a trail that crosses. But I don't know if I'm going to do that because I feel like I already know where they're coming from. And at this point too, we've heard a couple people talk about putting the cameras in a spot could potentially alert the deer, like they smell the strap, anything like that, or maybe becoming too reliant on cameras. So I'm gonna try to not do that this year on that club. I'm just gonna try to hunt off sign as much as I can, and just run cameras again, just for pure intel purposes. Because I feel like I talk myself out of spots too much based on what my cameras are showing me, and so I'm gonna get away from that. Dial in the woodsmanship this year, baby.
You're just using all that technology for your band. You sorry dog. Let the comments come.
Yeah.
Can't kill nothing without a trail camera. What are you doing? No. I'm kidding. No, that's cool though. That's exciting. So it's got out of one club, literally cross the street to a new club, instantly getting bucks on, where the other club 3 years there couldn't find bucks on to save your life. Barely.
Yeah, it's looking a lot better than the last
weird.
one. A lot better.
That pavement really must cut off those deer from crossing the road.
I have a theory as to why one's so much better than the other. But I don't know. I don't want to say too much.
Well, why would you even say you had a theory then? That's
I don't know. Just being a
cliffhanger,
tease, man.
Well, so Monday's episode, I did want to talk about Monday's episode with Warburton, Aaron Warburton.
Yeah.
That was awesome. If you guys have already had a chance to watch it or listen to it, love to hear some of y'all's feedback down in the comments below. But if you haven't already checked it out, I'd highly recommend it. It's a really long interview, but there's some great information in there. Like I knew it was really good when we interviewed Aaron. Almost said just Warburton, but when we interviewed Ward, I knew the interview was good. But after going back and re-listening to it, and actually because I cut some clips out of it, he's got so much good nuggets in there that is so helpful. No matter your experience level, whether you hunt public or private land, there's some fantastic information in there. And one thing I was so impressed with was his utmost attention to detail on setups in situational hunting was phenomenal.
Yes.
I mean, it's like there are different levels to thought process of the setups, their situational hunting and all that kind of stuff. And everybody, has a little bit of reference to it, but like he's going into so much detail and thought process. I'm like, I don't know how you're keeping it on your head and like trying to just, stay that hyper focused when you get in a spot like that. So he had some great examples. That, and then also, dude, the stories of him talking about like hunting with his dad, most of them were all turkey hunting stories early in the podcast. But like with his uncles and everything was just hilarious.
Yes.
To me, it's like the perfect episode of like some entertainment, humor, and then also just like overall educational content. It was like the perfect mix of both of those.
Yeah, I agree. And it took us so long to get him on. We've wanted to get him or one of the other guys from THP on for a long time, and just, I don't know why, timing wasn't right, just didn't line it up, whatever the case might have been. But I'm glad that we drove to Missouri and did that in person.
Yeah.
And we need to get him on for a turkey episode this spring. He would be super fun to talk turkeys with, because you could tell he wanted to talk turkeys, So, yeah, no, it was great. I got a lot of comments and messages. I'm sure you've got them too, about, like, that was a lot of people's, one of their favorite episodes we've ever done. Out of 700. That's pretty good.
I've been hearing that more and more with almost every other episode that we're dropping. Man, it was my favorite episode ever. That's my favorite episode ever. I'm like, some people have said that multiple times, because I know some of the guys have been saying that. I'm like, man, we'll just keep outdoing your favorite episode. Like, the goalpost is moving.
I think part of the reason for that is we've made big investments. One, in better gear. Two, we've been traveling to all these people to do it in person. And there's just something about a conversation in person. You get more than if you do it over a Zoom call. I don't know what it is, but it's just a better conversation. And that's how we're doing all of them now. So to the point where we sold our gear that allowed us to do remote. I don't know how to do remote stuff with this thing. So this new equipment that we got. So we took the plunge. We're doing all in person now. So I think it's paying off, man. It's fun to do it.
It's so fun. And I love traveling and interviewing people in their homes, talking to them for an hour or two before we even get started while we're setting stuff up, and even talking to them after the fact. And I feel like it allows us to, especially with a new guest, get to know them even better. Because it's one thing about talking to them on the phone. It's another thing just like hanging out with them while you're setting stuff up and you're talking, kind of getting everybody all warmed up for it, so that when you get into the conversation, like you already have a pretty good feel for like who they are, how they hunt, or what they do, in order to like kind of not only give us more idea of how to lead the questions, because we don't go in with any pre-written questions.
No.
It's all from the dome, top of the head.
Yep.
So to be able to go in and talk with them in person and get a better feel for who they are and what they do before you get started, to me, just makes it so much better too.
Yeah.
So it's been super fun, it has been very rewarding seeing the response from listeners and viewers of how they've been enjoying the episodes and all that kind of stuff. So again, we'll keep on doing it. That's our focus. Again, these big in-person interviews. So if there's we've said this all the time, but if there is anybody that you guys would really want to see on the podcast, big name individuals, hometown, local legend, whatever, always write those in and let us know, give us some information on them. I know a bunch of you have already done that. Because it is real fun when we can kind of connect with individuals in different parts of the country, in the Southeast, be able to meet up with them and so on. I thought Ward was funny because right when in the intro, we're talking about, it's the first time getting you on to the podcast, and he's like, yeah, well, I'm not much of a Southern outdoorsman. I'm up here in the Midwest, but, it's fun coming on. I know Aaron listens to the podcast too and enjoys the show, so it's cool to kind of bring those different ties together and kind of put them out there for you guys.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And if you do have a guest recommendation, don't wait. Send it to us. We got a great recommendation a week or two ago from Arkansas, and you know who you are. Guy wrote in, I think it's his grandfather.
Granddad, yeah.
And, man, that guy sounds awesome. definitely want to interview him. But we had just driven through that town like the week before. I was like, oh, we just missed it.
Great example of like not waiting. If you have somebody that's kind of on your mind, especially, I'm going to say this right now. Well, we've said this a couple times. If you are, I can't remember the guy's name from Texas. If you're in Texas, trying to come to Texas and do some interviews, if you've got some sure enough killers, preferably not on high fence. I know a lot of properties high fence over there. They don't even have to be necessarily public land, but it would be really nice if they hunt in public. Sorry, I put some criteria in there. But if you got some really good hunters in Texas that you know of, if you would just reach out to us and kind of help put us in touch, it would be fantastic.
Yeah.
So, because Texas is a very diverse state, especially East Texas, very similar to most of the Southeast. So, yeah, definitely reach out with those.
Yeah, so appreciate everybody supporting the show over the years, buying merch, listening, supporting our partners.
Sharing the show.
Like, that's what allows us to go do these things in person.
Yeah, and produce better content for you guys that hopefully adds more value to what y'all are doing. Both maybe you learn something, maybe you're a little entertained, something clean that you can let the kids listen to as well or watch. So, yeah, appreciate all the support over the years because it's been 8.5 years we've been doing the show now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. The other thing too, all these trade shows coming up. Like you mentioned, we got the World Deer Expo this week. So if you're in Birmingham, passing through Birmingham, whatever the case may be, come to the World Deer Expo, BJCC Arena in Birmingham, Alabama. We'll be there, booth 605, and then not next week, but the week after that, we'll be in Emerson, Georgia, at the GON Outdoor Blast. I forgot the dates. It's like the 19th. I believe. That sounds right. Maybe look that up real quick. So we're going to be at that. GON Outdoor Blast, Emerson, Georgia, and then Dalton, Georgia for the Mobile Hunters Expo, the granddaddy of them all. Love that expo. For the Mobile Hunters Expo,
It's the 25th through the 27th.
not the 19th. Strike that from the record. 25th.
25th to the 27th, GON Outdoor Blast, Emerson, Georgia, at the Lake Point Sports Complex.
Which is a really cool venue.
It's a really nice venue.
Yeah, very, very cool venue. We were there last year. Had a really good time at that show. And then Mobile Hunter Expo.
Yeah.
Dalton, Georgia.
8th to the 10th.
Be there or be square.
It's going to be, listen, if you're a hardcore listener to the podcast, you really like what we're doing, all these expos are great, but if you can make it to that Mobile Hunters Expo, it is fantastic. This is the third year they've done it in the Southeast.
Very unique expo. You're not going to go to another expo like it, I promise you.
Yeah, it's all the top name brands in that mobile hunting space, which is kind of like what me and Andrew have been doing for over 10 years now, hunting style wise. And most of you guys, if you're hunting public land, that's what you're doing too. It is the place to go, and it's also where you're going to meet some of the best hunters in the Southeast are going to be at that show. Both speakers, like Bobby Worthington's going to be one of the speakers this year, which I'm super excited about. I've been telling Chris Leppert, the owner, or one of the owners, how like they got to try to get Bobby, and they finally did. Super excited to see Bobby at the show. So if you've been wanting to pick Bobby Worthington's brains, which he's been one of the most popular guests we've ever had on the podcast, he's going to be at the expo. So come hang out with us. Of course, we're going to have a booth there. There's going to be a ton of other fantastic brands there as well. So super exciting. And it's going to be twice the size of it was last year, booth space. So it's going to be, again, a lot bigger venue. There'll be thousands of people there. So come hang out. Dalton, Georgia, 8th to the 10th of August.
Also, Bronson Strickland's going to be there speaking as well.
Bronson Strickland.
Yep. He's all the GPS episode we've been doing, most of those were with Bronson.
And listen, if you got a bone to pick with Bronson, great place to talk to him. I'll tell Bronson right now. I told him that. Or if you just really like what Mississippi State's been doing with all their research and all their studies that they've been publishing, it'd be a great time to really go talk to Bronson. So again, he'll be at the show as well all weekend.
Yeah, we were talking to somebody about this the other day, but it used to be that hunting trade shows, you would go there and there'd be like new products that maybe you haven't seen yet, and the industry's changed over the years, where nowadays when most of those bigger companies are getting ready to drop a product, you just go to Bass Pro Shops or wherever.
Yeah, one of the
Academy,
big box stores.
somewhere like that.
Yeah.
And you can go see that product. Like they don't do like big releases at shows usually anymore. But at the Mobile Hunters Expo, most of those brands are direct to consumer. And so they're not things that you can go and see in a big box store. And I know a lot of our audience is interested in those products. We have people message us all the time about this saddle, this piece of apparel, this or that, climbing equipment, new stands, new climbers, whatever the case may be. Well, pretty much everybody in the industry's at the Mobile Hunters Expo as far as companies go. So, and this is what I tell everybody. I told a guy this back in like February when he messaged us asking about saddle platforms and sticks and like 2 or 3 different sticks. I was like, just don't buy it right now. Go to the Mobile Hunters Expo and try them all out. Because a lot of the saddles, a lot of the stands, a lot of the sticks, whatever the case may be, they're like boots. What I like might not be what Jacob likes. And pretty much everybody's making a quality product these days. So it's kind of hard to go wrong, but I do recommend going and trying different things because we've tried, I don't know how many different saddles.
Oh, I've personally owned 12 different saddles.
Yeah.
And again, and saddles might not be for everybody, but they're super effective if you can figure out, again, which one fits you the best. And an event like that's fantastic. It's not just saddles that's there. It's all mobile hunting equipment. There's packs there. There's so much stuff there that is applicable if you're trying to get into being a more mobile hunter. And when we say mobile hunter, it's just like most guys in the Southeast, if you're using a climber, you're a mobile hunter. Like you don't have to be a saddle hunter to be a mobile hunter. Most guys are hunting public land. If you're using a climber, again, you're in that category. Being a mobile hunter is just not being in a ladder stand or a pre-hung lock-on stand or a box blind. I mean, if you're a ground hunter, you're a mobile hunter. So,
yeah. And the good thing about it too, by the way, like just the other day, a buddy of mine from my old hunting club reached out and he was asking about a saddle, and I told him, I was like, look, if you can make it, go to that Mobile Hunters Expo, and it's in Dalton, Georgia. He lives here in Birmingham, but I was like, I'll just go over there. Whether you make it a day trip or take the wife, take the kids, it's up there in the North Georgia mountains.
Beautiful.
Make it a little mini vacation. It's a beautiful part of Georgia.
Close to Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Yeah, close to Chattanooga. There's all kinds of little cabins you can rent out there if you want to loop it in with a little family vacation. You know, Friday through Sunday, go to the mountains. Maybe Saturday, dip into the expo, check it out. Highly recommend it. Especially if you're planning on spending, if you're going to go buy a whole mobile hunting setup and you're going to spend a couple $100, potentially $1,000 or more dollars, it's well worth your time and effort to go to something like that. And not only try different things and see what you like, but also most of these saddle hunting companies, the owners are in the booth. The guy who invented the product that you are sitting in is sitting right there. So they're going to be able to tell you how to get comfortable in it. You know, a lot of people worry about hip pinch with saddles, whether or not it's comfortable, how you shoot out of it. Well, that's the best place to go get a crash course because those guys can show you like that. They can tell you, this is why you're getting the hip pinch. This is why you're having trouble shooting at that angle, and they can fix it for you. So even if you already do hunt, it's a really good place to go to do that and just try different gear.
Yep, absolutely. So hopefully see y'all there in Dalton, Georgia, the 8th through the 10th of April, or not April, August. Go in April and you'll really miss the show. Probably some kind of home goods show or something there at that time. But yeah, other than that, appreciate again everybody's been buying the apparel. Again, Freezer Queen shirts and a lot more on the website, southernoutdoorsman.com, link down in the show notes. Other than that, we appreciate y'all watching the podcast. Thank y'all for listening. We'll catch you back here on the next episode from the Southern Outdoorsman. And remember, guys, y'all stay Southern.